Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Bryan, and I'm the Vice Chair of the CERGE-EI Foundation. I'll be the moderator today, and I'm joined by Silvester van Koten, who's a CERGE-EI alumnus and an instructor in our distance learning program, and by our very special guest, Jiří Pecka, who's a CFO of the Elevion Group. Our call today is part of the Distance Learning Program Speaker Series run by the CERGE-EI Foundation, and we're really glad that you could join us. Just so everyone knows, this webinar is being recorded if you're interested in listening to it after the call. Before we get started, note that we've gathered together a few questions already, and we also encourage you to add your questions in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of the screen. We're delighted to have 24 countries and 4 continents represented, as well as attendees from more than 25 universities, a number of public institutions, nonprofits, and think tanks. I think we have over 131 people who registered, which is great. Always wonderful to see who's interested in the subject. As I mentioned before, our speaker today is Jiří Pecka. He's the Chief Financial Officer of Elevion Group, which is a subsidiary of the CEZ Group, one of the largest energy companies in Europe. Elevion is a leading European provider of end-to-end decarbonization and higher energy efficiency solutions, with over 60 consolidated companies in more than 12 countries. After earning degrees in international relations from Charles University and corporate finance at the University of Economics in Prague, Mr. Pecka started his career in 2007 when he joined Ernst & Young and then later PricewaterhouseCoopers. In 2012, Mr. Pecka moved to Basel, Switzerland, where he leveraged his financial expertise into a managerial position in the corporate headquarters of Clariant, which is a multinational Swiss chemical company. His responsibilities included managing tax and transfer pricing, M&A, controlling, financial reporting, and valuation. After his return to the Czech Republic in 2016, Mr. Pecka joined the CEZ Group, where he started to work as a finance manager for foreign CEZ distribution companies. And the next year, he transferred to ESCO International within CEZ, which then transformed itself into the Elevion Group. He took over the function of CFO for Elevion in 2020. So please join me in welcoming Jiří to our call. Jiří, we're so delighted that you are here with us today, and we're really interested in hearing more about your firsthand experience with decarbonization projects in various European countries. Could you give us an update on what you are up to before we move into questions?
Yeah, so I hope that basically you will like this seminar. I hope it's I'm really glad that I can share some practical insights with you. I'm a financial guy, so I'm not a technician, so maybe I will not be able to answer all the questions. Remains to be seen, but I believe that we can move to the presentation.
Great. And who? Let me see. Okay.
Yeah, great. So thanks a lot for the intro. I believe that you summarized quite well, my bio and so forth. So maybe we can go to the first slide when I will, share some more insights on the Elevion Group. So basically, we are so-called energy service company. It's abbreviated as ESCO. I'm not sure whether you know this abbreviation, but basically we are focusing on energy solutions. And of course, we have a number of competitors, but we try to have a unique philosophy, the so-called best of the two worlds. So we try to, because in the past we grew rather, let's say, through acquisitions. So we have a lot of small and medium-sized entities, and what differentiates from the rest of our competitors is that we are really trying to promote the entrepreneur spirit, of the local subsidiaries. So they have really freedom to operate, and we always try to keep their brand, because it's quite important. So this differentiates from instance from NG, because NG usually always rebrands, each and every subsidiary. Everybody's called NG. It's not our philosophy. We really want to promote uniqueness. Yeah. At the same time, because we are part of CEZ Group, we really focus, let's say, or we have strong financial backing from our mother company, CEZ. So we are able to invest a lot of money. Yeah. So in total, on annual basis, we have, let's say, 6,000 projects. We have over 4,500 employees. We are based in 12 countries, in Europe and in Asia. Our core market is Europe, mostly Poland, Germany, Austria, Italy. We are also like newly focusing more and more in Spain and UK. So we would like to be a pan-European ESCO company. But we are also based in like Asia. For instance, we are present in China, Malaysia, or in Israel. Yeah. In total, we have, let's say, like over 120 branches. We have 70 consolidated companies, which is quite a significant number. And this somehow connects to the fact that, as I mentioned, because we are acquiring small and medium-sized like entities, we don't want to merge them, so we'd rather keep them standalone. That's why we have so many entities. Quite frankly speaking, it's like difficult to manage from time to time, but we are doing our best. Yeah. So as you can also see, we have reached over 1 billion euro revenue in 2023. We were able to install over 500 megawatt peak photovoltaics per year, and we have over 2,000 megawatt peak of photovoltaics like in OEM. Although we are like a subsidiary of CEZ, we are, let's say, not present in the Czech and Slovak market because it's done by our sister company CEZ ESCO AS. So we are really like focusing on international business. And although we have a seat in Amsterdam, I'm personally seated in Prague, where also the whole financial team is located. So if you can move to the next slide. Yeah, so here I wanted to illustrate, like how fast we actually grew. It was a really roller coaster. So we basically started from scratch in 2016, basically with nothing. And you can see that over time, we were able to like really grow significantly. There was a little bit hiccup in the COVID years, but we were able to recover quite significantly. And our aim is basically to triple EBITDA by 2028. Yeah. It's a lot of work, if you ask me. Like there are plenty of like we need to do a lot of integration of the companies. In Prague, we have small financial team, so we try to be as efficient as possible. But so far, it seems to be working. Yeah. Also, in the past, as I mentioned, we try to grow mainly through acquisitions. In the future, we would like to more focus on organic activities. So let's say more on projects, so we would like to have newly assets on the balance sheet. Yeah. Like the key limitations for our future growth is basically project financing of the green assets, because I will show it on the next slide. It's difficult to get the financing from the external market. And it's really difficult to get good and qualified people. It's like really a limitation. You can see it in German market that it's like really the German market, it's really difficult to attract qualified personnel. And I believe these are the most significant hurdles in being the decarbonization leader in Europe, which is our ultimate goal. Yeah. So if you could go to the next slide. Here I wanted only to illustrate our segments. So basically we have 3 segments. We have building energy solutions. Here we are focusing on decarbonization, energy efficient solutions for buildings. It's mostly mechanical, electrical engineering, also like building automation. Then we have green energy. Here we are focusing on photovoltaics, energy savings, batteries, e-mobility solutions. And the third pillar, the first segment, is energy for industry. This is basically, let's say, energy efficiency, decarbonization solutions for industry. It's more about heat pumps, cogeneration units, and so forth. Yeah, so if we could move to the next slide. Yeah, so like the key markets, so the key drivers for our future growth, we can we perceive basically like in 3 like major drivers. The first one being EU Green Deal, because it helps us a lot. Basically, Europe wants to be like as the first continent like carbon neutral by 2050. I believe now they revise the goals. They would like to be more ambitious already in 2040. I believe there are some recent discussions, and a lot of companies need to basically work on energy efficiency and renewable sources. Yeah, so this plays in our favor. Another thing is what was implemented by European Union is ESG reporting. Again, it's like a lot of new regulations, which we also need to actually do. newly, so it also somehow engages us a lot because you cannot imagine it's a lot of work. We actually created our own team for ESG. We are also closely working with CEZ. A lot of disclosures, this ESRS standard, it's like similar as IFRS. So you need to work on the quantitative data. It needs to be somehow structured. It's not easy. At some point in time, it will be also audited. So we need to prepare ourselves, and also banks newly will somehow factor in this ESG stuff in their credit rating assessment. Yeah, so this is also kind of important for us. And newly, the companies will also need to track their carbon footprint in scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, but I believe this was dealt elsewhere, so I don't need to go into detail. Another fact is which speaks to our favor is basically cost optimization, because electricity prices, although they peaked in 2022, they are still quite high. So of course, it incentivizes the clients on work on energy efficiency solutions. And, our assets on balance sheet, for instance, also enable our clients to fix the energy prices for several years. So this is also good. So if you could go to next slide. Yeah, here I just wanted to only point out relevant markets as per our segment. So you can see that really the European market in the 3 segments is really huge, by 2030. Significant growth potential. We try to somehow show here what are the, let's say, our key markets, what are our evolving markets, where we so far are not that present. But you can see that in the countries where we are present, we, in most cases, we are able to capture already 50% of the whole potential. Yeah. So if you could go on to the next slide. Here I only wanted to illustrate the growth, comparing, let's say, basis of 2022 with 2030. So you can see that, in all cases, there is a significant growth, on annual basis, mostly in energy for industry, building energy solutions too. Green energy, you can see that the growth is not that big. It is attributable to the fact that basically it's all about solar PV, and I believe that solar business is peaking currently. So I believe that in the future, entities will focus more on different solutions. Yeah, because with photovoltaics, we have also quite a negative experience, because, for instance, in the Netherlands or in Austria, we are seeing that the grid gets congested, and we are having issues with somehow connecting our assets to the grid. It takes a lot of time. There is a lot of stocking of energy or overloading of the energy grid. It's not good. So I believe that I will speak about it also later. Maybe it will be good to have always combination of PV with battery going forward. Okay, so if you could go to next slide. Here, I just want to capture another fact, which is somehow very differentiating aspect for us, because we are really able to deliver the whole, let's say, value cycle. Yeah. So we are able to provide our clients with consulting, with conceptual design, with planning, also with execution, with service and maintenance, energy-related services. And also we are able, because we have a strong shareholder in place, we are able to also provide financing to our clients. Yeah, so if you could go to next slide. So we are able to provide 2 key financing solutions to our clients. One is energy performance contract. So this is, for instance, we are using in Austria, where we always construct rooftop photovoltaics for our clients, and we guarantee certain performance target in megawatt hours. And to the extent we are not able to reach the target, we are paying a penalty to the client. If we overachieve, then we get some additional money from the client. As you can imagine, we have exposure to the irradiance, so we always pray that sun is shining, otherwise we have a problem. Yeah. Usually these contracts are from 5 to 10 years, so it's quite a long time. And because we are providing financial solutions, of course, we have exposure to customer credit risk, and this is kind of like really important factor for us, because we are ESCO company and we don't know how to deal with credit risk of clients. It's something which should be dealt with by the banks. We have also power purchase agreements. If we have, let's say, some assets, huge assets on the balance sheet, we are able to provide our clients with fixed prices of electricity, let's say for the next 10 or 20 years. So we are using so-called pay as produced. So basically, whatever we send to the client, we will get paid for it. Based on our experience, the clients are usually either some like utilities or some companies or some traders. Again, here we have a long-term exposure to the customer credit risk up to 20 years. And because our shareholder does not like customer credit risk, we need to somehow get rid of it. But here the problem starts because basically banks are not prepared to do the refinancing. They are a little bit, let's say, lazy. So they rather have always, let's say, large minimum tickets of 20 million. And insofar we are not able to reach 20 million euro, then basically we will not get refinancing. Of course, we can bundle, but it takes time. The problem is that all these ESCO solutions are rather small, decentralized. And, out of 100 projects, for instance, only 2 can be over 20 million. So it's just really problematic. What is also problematic that, all these agreements are not standardized. Like banks need to do some due diligence. It entails a lot of work. They just don't want to do it. And also European Union is not helping because European Union is not providing any relief to the regulatory capital, to the banks. So they are not incentivized to help us with the refinancing. And what is also interesting, we had a discussion with like a German bank the other day. In Germany, we usually, let's say, using this subsidized financing KfW, but for the first time in history, the KfW financing is now more expensive than the commercial financing. Because Germany seems to be running out of money, and basically the support for green projects, is somehow dwindling. I hope it will somehow improve. But it's the current fact. So we also need to somehow deal with that. Okay, so if we go to next slide. Here, now there will be a section with our projects because I believe it's quite interesting. So I will start with our project in Bucharest, in Romania, in building energy solutions. So basically we are building electrical and mechanical installations in cathedral. It's like really huge cathedral. Once it's built, I believe it should be finalized, I don't know, in 2 years' time or something like that. I will also go there and visit it because I'm really looking forward. And, like we are doing HVAC. So this is heating, ventilation and air conditioning. And usually people believe that like carbon footprint is about cars or like freight or like air traffic, but it's also about buildings, because buildings make up a lot of pollution. I noted here like 46% of the greenhouse is actually somehow generated through buildings, and half of it is attributable to HVAC. So in order to actually reduce the carbon footprint, it's important that you are using efficient HVAC solutions. You are doing frequent maintenance, and of course, these two aspects help. And we really have a lot of HVAC projects currently. So this is something which really engages us a lot. So if we go to next slide. Here we are now switching to green energy. So I wanted to show you what we do in case of like solar parks. So we were able to actually construct one of the largest solar parks in Germany, Tramgetten. It's really huge. It's really a huge like solar park. It's like 350 soccer stadiums. The installed capacity is like 172 megawatt peak. So we can see that like it generates enough electricity for 50,000 households annually. And what is also important, like this ground-mounted PV plant, it's like single use. So it's always important to also somehow promote biodiversity. So we have built a lot of fig hedges. We have ponds for frogs. Yeah, we have also meadows. So yeah, we do our best to be always, let's say, environmental friendly when we are building solar parks, because I understand it's not that nice, if you look at it, because it's just panels, but at least we are doing something to promote the biodiversity. And you can see that also the CO2 savings are really significant. Yeah, it's like over 100,000 tons per year. And it should be also noted that in March 2024, we built our first like solar park, which we will have on the balance sheet. Yeah, so in total we invested some 40 million euro capex, and for instance this park we were able to refinance with the banks because it's a big capex and banks are happy. Yeah. Good, and we have like a trader here, like with long-term PPA for 10 years. Yeah. So if we go to next slide. So this is our constructed solar park in Israel. So we were really lucky that it was not somehow impacted by the war in Gaza, so nothing happened, no rockets, so it was good. So basically we did turnkey delivery, so there was engineering, procurement, and construction. In total, it's 19 megawatt peak floating project. It's biggest floating PV built in Israel. Again, over 47,000 PV modules, CO2 savings over 12,000. It was finalized in 2022. Maybe it's worth noting, why we do floating PV, because in my opinion, it's a great idea, because in case of ground-mounted PV, you always somehow occupy the land. Whereas if you build it on water, it's like perfect, because it also enables you to somehow cool down the water. So water does not evaporate, so it automatically increases the biodiversity. So it's really good. And what you can do is that you can use reservoir or like quarries, so which are normally unused, so you don't actually occupy the land. Yeah. And I believe there is also some potential in Europe going forward. For the time being, we see rather limited number of projects. If you ask me in Europe, what would make more sense is, for instance, agri-PV, for vineyards or something like that. Maybe one downside of the floating PV is that, you need robust anchoring system, robust infrastructure, robust structure. So this means that you have like higher capex per megawatt peak, but because the water actually cools down the solar plant, you have also a higher efficiency. Yeah. Go to next slide. Okay, so here I just wanted to illustrate also that, newly we are also installing ground-mounted PV combined with battery storage. So we have just started the project, so we will do engineering, procurement, and construction. Customer originally wanted to secure models and batteries by themselves, but eventually, because we have really good discounts on the solar panels, we are able to deliver it too. The installed capacity is 45 megawatt peak. It's our first project in Scotland. If you ask me, to me, it's a little bit weird that we are building solar parks in Scotland, because I would expect that they are more into wind. I would also expect that European Union somehow tries to like promote, let's say, constructing solar plants in Italy and Spain, and somehow transfers the energy to other countries just to be more efficient. I believe currently each country is doing their energy policy, and I believe this is something which European Union should work upon, because at least in the renewable sector there might be some good synergies, in my opinion. Yeah.
That's so really interesting, Jiří. And I mean, how many before we move on to questions, because I know we're about halfway through our time. Is there do you have a last example that you would like to show us before we
Okay, yeah, maybe we can okay, so maybe I can show, if you go, like to next slides, maybe, one example could be, the last example can be the biomethane plant, if possible. Here I just wanted to illustrate that we have also biomethane plants, which are somehow good for environment, in my opinion. What we are doing, we have biomass, let's say some like out of slurry or something like that, or agriculture residues. We put it into biomethane plant, and we produce biomethane through anaerobic digestion. it's also, in my opinion, very good for the environment because you can use biomethane, for instance, instead of natural gas. You know, the grid is already there, and you can put it into trucks, or you can put it into ships, you know, instead of natural gas. So there are some nice synergies. Yeah, I believe the rest examples we can skip. You know, you can also then browse for it later on. I believe that they are not that interesting. So here I just wanted to illustrate our ESG goals, you know, because each company needs to have some ESG goals. So we will invest into like solar parks, as I mentioned, also into batteries. We would like to also promote innovative solutions. We would like to have skilled and diverse workforce, sustainable procurement, and CO2 reduction. And basically each and every company needs to define some ESG goals. So these are our ESG goals. And, you know, of course, other companies will that have ESG goals, but eventually it will work to our benefit because they will need some energy efficiency solutions. Yeah. Okay. Here, I just wanted to briefly like illustrate what we work upon in finance. You know, like we implemented in 2023 cash pool in total 8 countries, 47 entities. It's quite important because it enables us to leverage funds across the entities. So we're more efficient. We are able to finance, let's say, our survey projects in more efficient manner. And next week, we will be with my colleague in Brussels because we won the top 3 treasury project in Europe for this cash pool implementation. And we also won best treasury project in the Czech Republic. We are working on global framework insurance and bank guarantees. And we also did our first audited consolidated financial statements in 2022. You know, as regards challenges and priorities in 2024, so we will work closely with the banks, you know, in order to secure the financing of our green assets on the balance sheet. We will also need to work on ESG more because I believe that like ESG reporting will be more and more agenda also for the financial directors, you know, because we are used to work with data. So I believe that eventually it will be also subsumed under my agenda at some point in time. We are working on implementing ERP solutions in our companies. We like to have it uniform. We are working on Power BI just to enhance quality of our reporting. And we are also working on global management, global treasury management system. Yeah. And I also put here, let's say, some quotation from my favorite American woman, because I studied American studies, so I'm very much into the United States. And this lady saved a lot of like slaves. She got hit by a weight, and she felt dizziness like all her life, but still she somehow tried to do her best. And she just noted that we all need to be dreamers. And, you know, like everybody can be a dreamer, basically. And it's important to dream because if you have strength, patience, and the passions, you can really reach for the stars. And this is always what I try to deliver also to my team. Yeah, that everybody can do a lot of things in their lives. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. And we really appreciate it. I'm going to start off with one question and then move on, ask Silvester for his next one. But my first question is, you know, many of the people in our audience are from countries that are not in the EU where your company is working. Do you think there's opportunity for companies like yours to work in those countries as well? Or do there need to be policy changes before that happens? What do you think?
Well, you know, our shareholder is a little bit like conservative in terms of investments, but I believe, you know, because we proved to be successful, you know, like I believe 2 years ago, nobody expected that we would be able to successfully, let's say, invest in Israel. So I believe everything is possible. I believe that, you know, like countries which are not part of the EU, you know, are quite interesting. For instance, Ukraine, once the war is over, I believe there will be like significant potential, you know. So yeah, I believe, yes, it's doable, but, you know, we will need to work hard with our shareholder to persuade them. Yeah.
And just to kind of follow up on that, speaking of other countries that you guys are not working in, you know, it was really great this morning to wake up to the news of the $20 billion that's going to be going to nonprofits in the United States to act as green banks for clean energy projects. And this, I was thinking, would be really helpful in alleviating what you're talking about, where you have to have really big projects in order to do green energy projects. So is there an opportunity for Elevion and other EU-based companies to get involved in this as well?
Well, if we are eligible for such program, yes. I'm not sure whether you need to directly invest into United States or whether it's also somehow eligible. You are eligible if you invest outside the United States. But of course, it would be also great if European Union does something similar. If you ask
It
me.
would be. Absolutely. Well, cool. And over to you, Silvester.
Thanks, Jiří, for a very interesting talk, and also my congratulations for being in the top treasury project. This is really, really great to hear. So what I found interesting, a lot of the work I do, and also the course, so everybody who follows my course here knows that we talk a lot about efficiency, and we look at, okay, what is the best thing to do? Where can you make the highest return? How, if you want to decarbonize, how can you do it at the lowest possible decarbonization cost, lowest abatement cost? But one thing that I heard you mention, and that is something that we don't talk much about because it's finance, and that is like, okay, maybe there is some profit to get, but you need to get the financing, you need to get a bank on it, there is a risk. Yeah, so these are very interesting things, and I understand that this is a very important part of your work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because what we do, we always, let's say, compare the internal rate of return with our weighted average cost of capital. External financing also, always part of this weighted average cost of capital. And with the current environment, interest rates are really high. So it's really difficult now to get good projects. Usually, internal rate of return is not that high. Like compared to WACC. Of course, still it's higher, but it's more difficult than in the past. And also the clients, seem to have some capex constraints because of the large, high interest rate environment. We can see that there is significant cool down already. So they are somehow hesitant to invest. And I believe, so far our order backlog is quite full. But I can imagine that as of 2025 to 2026, given the economic downturn, it might be a little bit challenging for us. Yeah, but at the same time, we are in perfect market, so I hope that eventually we will still be able to grow. But I'm just saying that we can see some cool down in the market also because of the interest rates.
Could you give a rough estimate of what you use as an internal rate of return?
Well, it depends from country to country, so I believe in Germany we have, let's say, from 8%, like Italy 9%, maybe Poland 10%, yeah, something like that. But the problem is that if you have a financing bank which asks for 6-7%, that there is not much remaining, yeah. So
it's very high percentage, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm usually thinking of real growth is somewhere in developed countries 2 or 3% a year.
Yeah.
Right? That's the real growth of a developed economy. So, but if you talk about this project, you need to add inflation to it, I guess. Right?
Yeah, sure. The problem is that. Yeah, the problem is that we are not using corporate financing, because corporate financing is usually organized by our shareholder. So they have cheaper corporate financing than us. So basically, we are incentivized by our shareholder to have project financing. And then project financing, it's like ring fence, and you have long-term exposure to the credit risk of the client, and that's why the interest rates are so high. Yeah, but it would be really great if European Union could somehow push the banks, to somehow finance more the green projects, and if there is some, let's say, subsidized financing, we try to reach out to, I don't know, EBRD, but it's not easy to get some kind of financing. Yeah, so it's really a lot of work, a lot of discussions with uncertain results. Yeah.
So a follow-up question on that. You said that your company likes to have the assets on your account, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, but that gives exactly these problems, right, for financing. Yeah. So why is your company? What's the advantage? Why is your company so eager to have the project on your own account?
It's twofold. One aspect are clients, because if you have it on, if we have the asset on our balance sheet, then basically this means that automatically we will do the O&M, and we will take care of the asset. If you ask me, I also now installed photovoltaics on my roof, but like our company does not care, so it's always good to have somebody like who cares. It's one point. And like the second point is that if you have the assets on your balance sheet, it's like driven by a financial presentation, then basically you are able to have higher EBITDA. Yeah, because if you just install something, then basically your EBITDA will be like really small compared to assets on the balance sheet, because the depreciation will always play a role, because you will have the depreciation. So your EBITDA margin will eventually go up. And because we're also thinking at some point in time perhaps to have like some minority shareholder events to be seen. I don't know, it's like written in the stars. But everybody is also like the stock market is always looking at the EBITDA margin or at EBITDA. That's why. And also the investors usually prefer stable cash flows. And you have the assets on the balance sheet, you have the stable cash flow, and it helps, like in your valuation.
So we have a question from the Q&A box, and then we can go back to some further questions from Silvester. And our audience member asks, they're very interested in an analysis of how decarbonization in practice is working. Are the solutions that Elevion and others are currently implementing, are they sufficient enough to achieve our goals? And are we on the path, or are we just talking? So that's their question, and thanks so much for considering it.
Like we are doing something, we are not talking, you can see it in our growth that we really are doing something. But for us, as I mentioned, it's really important to get some financing for our projects. This I see as the biggest obstacle, because to me, European Union and also the banks are doing a lot of talking, and they are not supportive to a great extent. So I would really appreciate that, if there is some wider discussion between the banks and also European Union, and if basically they are able to provide some, let's say, more tailored green financing. Yeah. So this is what I'm missing currently.
And when you say tailored, are you thinking again something that would allow for smaller projects, or what would?
Yes, exactly something like just to be more, let's say, like more flexible. I would really appreciate some like more flexibility in the bank's attitude. Yeah, because we are really dealing with a lot of banks, like in practice, and usually the larger banks, it's of no use. So we prefer to like work with smaller banks, because the smaller banks are usually more flexible and they are able to provide some more innovative financing solutions.
Excellent. We have another question that's very similar along the same lines. Thomas Caston asks in the chat, he says, has the group looked at co-generating biochar and renewable electricity with residual biomass as feedstock?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we are producing biomethane in Italy. So we are using, let's say, slurry sludge, also agriculture residues, and we are turning it into biomethane, which can be used for trucks or for like ships. And another benefit is that in biomethane, what happens is that if you have this anaerobic digestion, the result is the so-called digested, and digested can be used as a fertilizer. So there is additional benefit, in my opinion, because you have basically organic fertilizer for free. Yeah, so it's really good. But so far we are doing this biomethane only in Italy. Because there the sun is shining and they have 2 crops, so we are able to have significant biomass. We're also thinking about perhaps expanding in biomethane in Germany, but there the market is a little bit more difficult.
Makes sense. And we have one more question from the Q&A from Zuleho Hakimova. They say, are there any opportunities to join your team as a fresh graduate? And I would add to that, what would people need to study or focus on if they were interested in doing that? Yeah,
it's like interesting question, and I really appreciate it. Like in the past, they were just Czech guys in our team. Now we have more and more foreigners. So it's good. So we started to newly speak also English at the headquarters, and I don't really care about like what is the like educational background, for me, it's important that the people are motivated, they are willing to learn. Of course, they should have some decent knowledge, in the respective field. But I believe, that we are, if you ask me, I believe we are quite interesting employer for the people, because, like what is unique for us, we are headquarters, like in the Czech Republic, and we have like foreign subsidiaries underneath us. So this means that usually it works completely to the opposite. Usually there is a German mother entity managing Czech Republic, so we are like Czechs managing Germans, so it's also good. And like really we have here a lot of interns, and they are always really motivated, and they like working for us, and I believe it's really interesting job. Yeah, so you get to learn a lot of things, and I believe also the colleagues in my team can confirm that, that they really like and appreciate the job they are doing.
Excellent. Silvester, do you have another question?
Yeah, my question would actually be like, what is in it for these companies? And the reason I ask is that if you look like 10, 15 years ago, we see that renewables are actually super expensive. Yeah? So to choose a renewable solution, solar panels, windmills, very expensive, and the cost of abatement were extraordinary. So of course this is a lot better with solar panels now, I believe, but then there are so many, of course, that when the sun shines, they are all producing, and actually the price of electricity goes very much down. So and then on top of that, like for example, this biogas, the numbers that I've seen said that biogas is 5 to 10 times more expensive than methane. So how can this financially work for these firms?
So I can start with biogas question. Like you are right. I believe it's not 5 for me. It's like threefold. The problem compared to solar is that usually there are limited synergies, whereas like the panels are expected, perhaps maybe they are bottoming like now, but still I believe that you can achieve some insignificant synergies also in the future, because like the efficiency will improve and so forth. They are now working on these perovskite panels, which will be more efficient than the traditional panels. But for the biogas, you are right. But I still believe that, for instance, agricultural produce can be a little bit problematic. But if you use it, let's say, if you use as a biomass, for instance, I don't know, cow excrements or something like that, or if you use organic wastes, from the cities, then I believe it can be cheaper, because you need to somehow burn the waste anyway. Yeah, so I would expect in the future, we should invest perhaps in like biomethane for organic waste, like from the cities. Might be interesting in my opinion, because the organic waste is there. You need to do something about it. Just yeah. And like coming back to your first question, like everything is developing. Yeah, you are right. In the 2 years ago, the prices of panels were like much higher. We were also a little bit afraid that there would be, let's say, really a shortage on the solar market. So we stocked a lot of panels, and now we are discovering that they are perhaps too expensive. But the prices are going down. Also, the efficiency is improving. So I believe at some point in time it will be beneficial for the clients. And of course, like there is like plenty of innovations here. You have these battery storage. So if you have battery storage, basically you can you can produce electricity during when the sun is shining, then store it, and you can use it at night, for instance. You have significant synergies because you are basically not paying for the peak load. I believe there is a lot of it into it, and you just need to be a little bit innovative. But I believe that at some point in time we will get there. Yeah, it's only about innovation, in my opinion. Like it's really progressing fast, and it will become like cheaper and cheaper. But it's true that some of the projects we are now doing, like we have really difficulty reaching the required rate of return. Yeah, because also the PPA prices went down, electricity prices are going down. Like it's like really double-edged sword. But I believe that what we should do is to work on efficiency and on innovative solutions. This is the key, in my opinion.
I have a reporting question, and you were talking a lot about ESG reporting, and we all know that it's becoming so important both for the EU and for banks. And how do you prepare your many companies to prepare aligned reports?
So we have like how we do it in our company, like practical example how we do it in our company. Yeah. So we have let's say over 70 entities, as I mentioned. We have SMEs. Quite frankly speaking, they don't understand ESG.
Yeah.
So what we need to do, we need to create, let's say, some local centralized team. Who will deal with the topic. I believe that we need to invest a lot into some robust software solutions, so that we need to really automate collection of the data, and we need to streamline the methodologies. This is key. Like currently we are struggling, we will be struggling, like this year. But I believe, once we make once we have some robust ERP in place, we have some robust ESG tool, it will automatically improve. But currently, you are right, it's really very funny road. And also for chess, for chess, they have a huge team, like 60 people, but still they are struggling. Also because European Union, they always publish some standards, and then you need to implement them immediately. Like I believe that ESRS standards were were published last year, and now we should already start using them. It's not easy to prepare, like all these companies. So it's a really big issue, and we are also building our own ESG team. So I hope that at some point in time, perhaps they will be as large as the financial team, eventually.
I know. I was thinking that you have to like really predict in the future what the questions are going to, what numbers they're going to be asking, and that's actually quite hard as well. Silvester?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm not sure that everybody in the audience would know what ESG is. Maybe you can very briefly say what is ESG, and I would be interested in the question, is ESG your friend, yes or no?
Jiří?
So ESG is environmental, social, and governance. Yeah. So basically, European Union always publish some standards, which always deal with ES or G. You need to disclose certain things. I'm not sure whether you ever saw these ESRS standards. It looks like IFRS standards. A lot of reading, a lot of disclosures. It's just not easy. And I believe, if you ask me, a lot of people in chess, they do not like ESG because it entails a lot of reporting, a lot of hassle, a lot of bureaucratic stuff. I tend to agree, but at the same time, I believe that because you need to also track this scope 3, which means that you need to track the environmental footprint of your whole supply chain. It may eventually be beneficial for the European Union because once people discover what it entails to transport some goods from China to Europe, perhaps eventually, like the consequence will be that there will be production in European Union, instead of in China. So I believe eventually, like from the long-term and strategic perspective, it's very good for the European Union. Although it's a hassle for a lot of entities currently.
Yeah, I was thinking actually that ESG, this actually connects to my previous question. What is it in it for these firms? I thought that ESG might be their driver, right? Because if they do a project with you, then they can write like, look, we did this and we try to be carbon free. So I imagine in this sense, ESG should be a friend of your business, but.
Like you mean, I was speaking more about, let's say, European Union, because I consider myself as European citizen, so for a European citizen, I believe it makes a lot of sense eventually. And you are right, for us, it's a perfect opportunity because each and every company will need to have some energy solutions, and they will need to invest, and it's like perfect opportunity for us. Yeah, so that's why I said, although there is a economic downturn, the market speaks to our favor, for the next 10 or 20 years. So I believe that we are really in perfect market.
Yep. So we have another question from the Q&A. It's from Kara Matula, Jarafark-Konov, and they ask, how can CFOs balance the potential long-term financial benefits of decarbonization initiatives with the short-term investment costs required to implement them?
So, sorry, once again, if you could.
Okay, once again. So how can you as a CFO balance the potential long-term financial benefits of decarbonization initiatives with the short-term investment costs required to implement them?
Yeah, it's like like really tricky is I mean I believe it somehow connects to this financing. Yeah, for us it really makes sense to make long-term investments. At the same time, we like somehow struggling with the capex constraints which we are having. So we need to find some balanced way. Currently our shareholder is still somehow trying to support us. God knows whether they will be still able to help us like in the foreseeable future. I hope that yes. So currently it's working, but at some point in time, if the banking environment does not improve, it will somehow pose a major challenge to us. Yeah.
And do you have lobbying? Do you work with any lobbying groups who are working with the EU or with other countries outside the EU to help push policies?
Yeah. We have working with some like lobbying groups. We are trying to push through like something at the European level. But the problem is that our shareholder, they have really good relationships like with the Czech authorities. But at the European level, yes, we have something, but it's not very much structured process. Yeah. So I believe that this is something which we should really like work upon also in the future to, let's say, also develop this lobbying. I believe it's done, let's say, by our colleagues, but not in a structured manner. So we need to be more diligent there. Yeah. And there was a question, one additional question regarding biochar. We are not using it, so we are just doing biomethane, not biochar.
Well, thank you for answering that question too. Any last point that you would like to just bring up for our learners and listeners today before we close the call?
No, I hope that it was like beneficial for you. Like to me, it would be really good if I inspire you, like for instance, to work for our company or for our competitor. I really believe that like the business makes sense, like I'm really proud of myself also against my children that basically we are doing something which is good for the environment. And, we are also able to promote the Czech Republic, because as I said, doesn't happen often that we have like Czech headquarters. That's why I actually moved from Switzerland where I learned a lot of things. That's why I moved to the Czech Republic just to also somehow utilize my expertise in the Czech Republic. Yeah. So I hope that, like we will also continue to grow. So far, it has been a success story. And, if some of the people in the call are able to help us in this, like for development of the success story, that would be very much appreciated.
Well, thank you so much. And I think we're all proud of you for having made the Czech Republic the hub for this. It's fantastic. So we really, really appreciate everyone who's joined our call today. We appreciate Jiří so much for all of his answers. And I just want to say before we sign off, that we want to let everyone know that the Foundation will be inviting more speakers to our Distance Learning Program speaker series, including other business leaders, university professors, and government officials to share their insights and expertise on topics we cover in our courses. These seminars are always open to CERGE-EI students, professors, administrators, and staff, and to our partners as well. So stay tuned for our next call later this year. And Jiří, thank you so much again. We look forward to seeing you at some of our events in Prague and really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you too.
Take care.
Have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.